Welcome to Spine Chilling Chats podcast, where we like to spill the tea. If you're into the macabre and enjoy hearing about true crime, supernatural, or spooky experiences, pull up a chair, pour yourself a cup of tea, and get ready for some spine chilling chats with Manda and Ange.
Hi to all the spooks out there. I'm Ange.
And I'm Manda.
If this is your first time joining us, welcome. Thanks for giving us a chance.
Yes.
If this isn't your first time, you're not sick of us yet?
Right. I'm glad.
Yeah, you're going to be sick after the rest of this story. So we're continuing my Shirō Ishii story here over in Japan. Last we left off, he was doing experiments on humans, and they had been doing some pretty awful things.
Mm-hmm. Gave him a whole bunch of monkey names.
Yeah, so they would keep it a secret, but openly a secret,
right,
in the Japanese Medical Society, that they were using humans as experimental subjects. Okay.
You know what they should have used, though? Your laptop is flickering.
Yeah, I know. That's why it's Rory's laptop. My daughter has a laptop, but I don't. She's 4, and I think it might have been dropped one too many times.
Oh.
It was a really cheap laptop Robbie got on clearance, so it's not like we spent a lot of money on it.
Right. No, what I was going to say was they should use the people that are in jail for horrific crimes instead of using innocent people.
True, but who's going to determine what is considered as horrific?
Murder?
Yeah, but who's saying they're taking them all from other countries? They're not really doing Japanese subjects.
No, I know. I'm just saying that would be the perfect person. Leave the innocent people alone and go after somebody who's in jail for something fucking horrific. Ugh.
I understand where you're coming at, but I don't condone torture on anybody.
Well, me either. But
if you're gonna,
you should use bad people.
Yes. Okay. Well, let's get back into it. By 1939, Shirō was ready to take his testing to entire villages. So far, he's only been testing on individual people.
In his village?
No.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
No. Yeah, he's going to go.
In different villages, he only did a select few. Now he's ready to do the whole.
Now he's going to infect a whole village.
Oh, boy.
This would really let him see and understand how the plague would spread on a battlefield. The attack was conducted on July 12th, 1939. A suicide squad was deployed to the Kalka River and dumped a jellied bacterial solution consisting of cholera, typhus, and dysentery into the river in the hopes that the contaminated water would then infect the Soviet water supplies and cause mass casualties along the Soviet troops, because he's wanting to go north and take over the Soviet Union.
Yeah. Yep.
Although the attack was to be originally carried out with aerial deployments that would be seen in later attacks, Soviet air superiority over the Khalkhin Gol, which is where this river is, made doing so too dangerous for the delivery aircraft, so they had to come up with another route. It is not known how many Red Army soldiers were infected, and at the very least there would have been few to no casualties stemming from the fact that, contrary to Japanese belief, the Soviets sourced their water supplies from well behind the front lines and took many simple precautionary measures, such as boiling their water, to prevent diseases from spreading in the first place.
Okay.
So all of that effort from Japan was for naught, because the Soviet Union was
one step ahead.
Yeah, they were smart. Which, take that, Shirō. You think you're such a smart guy.
Right. You're so fucking intelligent. They got you on that one, buddy.
Yeah. What is known, however, is that despite the thorough decontamination measures given to the suicide squad after their mission, over 1,300 Japanese and Manchu soldiers were infected with dysentery, which almost certainly came from the agents Unit 731 had deployed into the river. Of those, it is also not known how many of them ultimately succumbed, though infected Japanese soldiers were sent to the home islands to receive medical treatment from Unit 731 associated military medical units. Even though we would consider this an obvious failure, they were hailed as a success.
Oh my.
Shirō and the Suicide Squad were rewarded for their actions. As such, Unit 731's pathogens would be deployed for use in China, as the initial Japanese advances were blunted by the Chinese resistance. Beginning in the fall of 1940, weaponized plague would be used tactically, followed by strategic biological attacks from that October. Cities would be attacked with biological weapons through plague flea bombs. They were infected fleas contained in a ceramic shell that would shatter and release the fleas on impact, resulting in thousands of civilian casualties and the effects of the plague lingering for decades afterwards.
I don't even know what to say to that.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Like, who thinks about, I'm going to stick thousands of fleas in a ceramic ball and go drop it?
That's...
How do you get all the fleas in there? Like, is there, they jump, yo.
Right. Yeah, that is true. I didn't think about that.
Like, how do you
get thousands of fleas in there?
I don't know, but they did it. This is true stories.
Well, that one's, it's supposed to be true, right?
Yes,
but
all of these are true.
I call bullshit on that one.
No, it happened.
What, did they have trained circus fleas?
Yes.
You just be like,
yeah,
okay,
jump.
now you jump
there.
into the ball.
Yep. Biological warfare reached its peak in 1942, with large raids taking place against villages and towns. Unit 731 specialists attached to the ground forces infected wells left germ-ridden food, and even sprayed the ground to infect Chinese troops in areas where Japanese forces had fallen back. These attacks went well beyond the preceding ones, as in addition to using the same types of bacteria from previous attacks, new specimens were employed, namely anthrax and rotten foot disease.
What is rotten foot disease?
I assume it rots your foot.
I'm going to look it up.
Okay, but I'm pretty sure...
Yeah, but like, what causes that?
A bacteria that rots your foot.
Rotten foot disease. Foot rot, or infectious poderomatitis, is a highly contagious disease of artiodactylite. You can read it.
Well, I'm not going to say it any better. Foot rot, or infectious poderomatitis, is a highly contagious disease of artiodactylids, and is the term used to describe an acute to chronic infection and inflammation of the skin and adjacent soft tissue of the hoof. But I guess in this instant, the foot. Because we don't have hoofs, guys.
Foot rot. Foul in the foot. Interdigital necrobacilliosis. Okay.
So it kills the tissue. Gross.
Gross.
All of the above is more than enough speculative fuel for alternate history, but pales in comparison to the most ambitious project, a biological attack against the Western Allies.
Oh,
That's
here we go.
us, guys.
Here we go.
Early proposals were originally tactical in nature during the Battle of Bataan in 1942. In which American and Filipino forces fought a desperate last stand against the Japanese invasion of the archipelago. I don't know what that is. It was proposed that over 200 pounds of plague fleas. Could you imagine 200 pounds of fleas? Like, how do you even get 200 pounds?
A hot air balloon type of ball.
Oh, my God. Well, I'm sure there were several little balls.
But I'm saying, like, that's what I would imagine.
The size?
200 pounds would be, yeah.
200 pounds of plague fleas would be dropped on the defending forces in 10 separate attack waves.
Jeez.
But the surrender of the defenders precluded such the possibility. Later, as the tide of the war was firmly against Japan, biological weapons were brought forward as a defensive weapon. There was an attempt to carry plague fleas to the strategically vital island of Saipan in the northern Marianas to use against the American landing there in 1944. But the ship carrying them was sunk by an American submarine. Similarly, words are hard. Similarly, a plan to bring plague-laden gliders to the Battle of Iwo Jima.
Iwo Jima.
Oh, Iwo Jima.
Iwo
Look
Jima.
at you. You knew something.
That's because my ex was in the military and he was stationed in
Iwo Jima?
Japan. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Jima.
cool. You should have asked him for cool stories. No.
We're not that cool. We're cool, but we ain't that cool.
Okay. Did not materialize after the gliders failed to appear at Bing Bang Airfield to pick up their deadly load. Unit 731 then proposed targeting major population centers in the U.S. West Coast to disrupt the American war effort. The initial plans envisioned the use of balloon bombs, designed to be cheaply made from paper with little manual labor, which would be fitted with a payload and carried across the Pacific Ocean by easterly jet stream winds at high altitudes. These bombs were originally created to carry incendiary payloads in order to cause large forest fires in rural Washington, Oregon, and California, but could just as easily be modified to carry Shiro's bacterial bombs. However, launches from November 1944 to February 1945 with conventional explosive or incendiary ordnance failed to deliver adequate results, as very few of the nearly 10,000 bombs launched managed to reach North America, and those that did failed to cause any palpable damage.
Can I make a correction? My ex wasn't in Iwo Jima. He was in Okinawa.
Oh.
But I know Iwo Jima because he would talk about
Okay.
stuff. Okay. Continue. Just didn't want anything to be misinformation.
In reality, a bomb that crashed into Oregon November of 1944 actually killed 6 civilians, 5 of them being children. American wartime censorship, which hushed up any details of the bombs, also meant that Japanese intelligence failed to learn of any successes, but no bombs were ever launched with bacterial payloads once Japan's intelligence concluded that the balloon bomb campaign was a total failure. Our death toll was insignificant compared to the estimated 140,000 and 74,000 that died in the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki on May 6th and May 9th, 1945. On May 8th, 1945, Germany surrendered. Japan held out but finally surrendered on September 2nd, 1945. The Second World War came to an end. After the end of the war, Shirō fled capture. Although exact numbers will never be known, it is estimated that the death toll just for Unit 731 alone is between 3,000 and 12,000. That's not counting Shirō's other biowarfare facilities and deadly plagues launched. It's believed those claimed an additional 200,000 to 580,000 lives. It's not surprising that Shirō fled, knowing he'd soon have to answer for his war crimes. It also didn't help that the American military colonels of Camp Detrick, the U.S. Biowarfare Unit, were anxious for the facts. Lieutenant Colonel Murray Sanders flew to Japan to interrogate those who had led the research conducted in Unit 731. During a 9-week investigation, it was just coming to light what horrors took place there. Sanders, however, was unable to interrogate Shirō as he faked his own death.
God.
Yeah.
Could this guy get any worse?
He is the worst. A funeral was even held for him in his home on November 10th, 1945. But we Americans aren't always as dumb as we look, and assumed Shirō was just in hiding. We demanded that the Japanese hand him over to investigators and sent another colonel to conduct further research. The Japanese are a proud people and refused to hand him over. On May 3rd, 1946, the Tokyo trials began, seeking to convict Japan's war criminals. Despite all of the evidence and accusations against him, Shirō was never mentioned. So he was the one
that did all
that
of
leaded
this.
all of this shit.
That led?
No, that leaded. That leaded all this shit.
Okay. Okay. Whatever you say. And he didn't even get mentioned.
They didn't even mention that he was at the root cause of it all.
See, why don't all these guys like get off on technicalities?
It gets worse too. It gets worse. So, U.S. operatives tracked Shirō down after he heard rumors that the U.S. might be willing to offer immunity to the scientists of 731. After all of the atrocious things he did, he wanted to ensure he didn't have to answer for them.
Of course not.
There was a lot of debate amongst high-ranking U.S. officials on whether he should be granted personal immunity. But we Americans are pretty horrible too, and wanted to know the data Shirō obtained through the unethical experiments he performed on thousands of innocent human beings. Reports of a team of military microbiologists headed by Lieutenant Colonel Murray Sanders helped sway the decision after he stated that the information was, quote, absolutely invaluable, and it can never have been obtained in the United States because of scruples attached to experiments on humans, and the information was obtained fairly cheaply, end quote.
The only thing I could think of at that point was Colonel Sanders.
Some chicken does sound good.
I know.
I'm hungry. Oh. Which I shouldn't be hungry after all this.
Right.
It's been
I'm hungry
horrible.
too, though.
It was a devastating blow to the people of both China and Russia who had suffered so much by the hands of this man. Even though the information was deemed to be invaluable, I still believe we are just as guilty of those thousands of deaths because we let the man responsible for them go free so we could benefit off of their death too.
That's sad.
It makes me sick to my stomach. We're just as guilty.
Yes. Yes.
Like, we let him go, and
Benefited.
better yet, the total amount paid to unnamed former members of the infamous unit, which we know included Shirō Ishii, was somewhere between 150,000 yen to 200,000 yen. An amount of 2,000 yen at that time is the equivalent to 20 million yen to 40 million yen today. I have no idea what that equivalates to American dollars, but the Colonel Sanders over there, he thought that was cheap. So we not only let him go free, but we gave him a nice sum of money too.
Right. So yeah.
So we really have blood on our hands here.
Oh, of course.
After being granted immunity, Shirō was hired by the U.S. government to lecture American officers at Fort Detrick on the uses of bioweapons and the findings made by Unit 731. During the Korean War, Shirō traveled to Korea to take part in the U.S. Army's biological warfare activities. So then we had him help us.
Right. So then we knew he was alive.
Well, yeah, we of course knew he was alive
No,
here.
he faked his own death.
Yeah, but we then tracked him down.
Right. And we helped him.
Yeah, and we paid him for his knowledge on his experiments. After returning to Japan, Shirō opened a clinic performing examinations and treatments for free. He kept a diary, but it did not make reference to any of his wartime activities with Unit 731. In his last years, Shirō could not speak clearly. He was uncomfortable and on pain medication, speaking in a harsh voice. He died on October 9th, 1959 from laryngeal cancer at the age of 67 at a hospital in Shinjuku, Tokyo. His funeral was chaired by Masashi Kitano, his second in command at Unit 731. According to his daughter, Shirō became a Roman Catholic shortly before his death. She also said in an interview that shortly before his death, Shirō's medical condition worsened. I would assume so.
Yeah.
One day, he took some sample tissue from himself to the University of Tokyo's Faculty of Medicine and asked one of his former subordinates to examine it, without telling him to whom it belonged. So this is just a random tissue sample.
Okay.
Just give me your opinion on it.
Okay.
When he was told that the tissue was riddled by cancer, he proudly shouted that he had thought so too. No doctor had dared tell him he was suffering from cancer of the throat. He eventually underwent surgery and lost his voice. He was an earnest student of medicine to his last day, taking notes on his physical condition. He told his old professor, Ren Kimura, who came to visit him at that time, "It's all over now," writing the message because he could no longer speak. Shortly before his death, he asked to be baptized by the late Dr. Herman Hoovers, former president of Sophia University in Tokyo. And this is a quote. Dr. Hoovers and my father were acquainted with each other since before the war. My father had much respect for the German people and their culture. He was baptized into the Roman Catholic Church and took the name Joseph. It seems to me that my father felt relieved somehow. End quote. And that, my friends, is the life and death of a mad scientist. Shirō Ishii.
Good riddance.
Yeah. So this was a little bit of a short one, but we're going to combine it with the second half of
Peter Sutcliffe.
Yeah. The Yorkshire
Ripper.
Yeah.
Yay. So this is a 2-for-1.
2-for-1. Yay, you.
Yes. Okay, guys, welcome to my second part of Peter Sutcliffe.
The Yorkshire Ripper.
Yeah. The Yorkshire Ripper. I like to say the Yorkshire Ripper.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So we're going to get into more possible victims. At the Byford report, amongst other things, asserted that it was a high likelihood that Sutcliffe having claimed more victims both during and before his known killing spree. The police identified a number of attacks that matched Sutcliffe's modus operandi and tried to question the killer, but he was never charged with any of the other crimes. This was between 1969, the period between 1969 and became the attention of the police in 1975. In 1969, Sutcliffe described in the Byford report as an otherwise unremarkable young man. So there was nothing special about him.
Just his bow tie, folks.
Oh, yeah. And his hair was actually kind of nice, too. It was. The notice came to the police on 2 occasions over the incidences with prostitutes. Later that year, in September of 1969, he was arrested in Bradford's red light area for being in possession of a hammer, an offensive weapon, but he was charged with going equipped for stealing.
Okay.
As it was presumed he was a potential burglar. The report said that it was clear Sutcliffe had at least one occasion attacked on a Bradford prostitute with a kosh. And a kosh is a club, sort of a staff or a stick, usually made of wood, wielded as a weapon since prehistory.
Okay.
So here's the Carol Wilkinson's case. Only days after Sutcliffe's conviction in 1981, Sutcliffe may have been responsible for the murder of 20-year-old Carol Wilkinson, who was randomly bludgeoned over the head with a stone in Bradford on October. Who was bludgeoned over the head.
Words are hard.
With the stone in Bradford on October 10th, 1977, 9 days after his killing of Jean Jordan. Wilkinson's murder had initially been considered a possible Ripper killing, but this was quickly ruled out as she was not a prostitute. So again, because it didn't fit his MO,
they didn't think it was him.
Police eventually admitted in 1979 that the Ripper did not solely attack prostitutes, but at this time, a local man, Anthony Steele, had already been convicted of Wilkinson's murder. So they already had somebody
that they pinned it on.
Yes, that they thought had did it, or because these are just potential killings.
So they were never confirmed if they were actually
not
his.
Confirmed. These were just potential killings of the Ripper. Around the time of Wilkinson's murder, it was widely reported that Professor David Gee, the Home Office pathologist who conducted all the postmortem examinations on the Ripper victims, noted similarities between Wilkinson's murder and the killing of the Ripper victims, Yvonne Pearson, 3 months later. Pearson was bludgeoned with a heavy stone and was not stabbed, and was initially ruled out as a Ripper victim.
Okay.
So that wasn't his MO because he used a hammer and a screwdriver.
But that doesn't
But
mean
that one was his victim.
Okay.
But because all the other ones were specifically the same exact way that they were killed, they didn't think that it was him. Pearson's murder was reclassified as a Ripper killing in 1979, while Wilkinson's murder was not reviewed. He did not confess to Wilkinson's murder at his trial, and Steele was already serving time for that murder. During his imprisonment, Sutcliffe noted to show particular anxiety. Sutcliffe was noted to show particular anxiety at mentions of Wilkinson's due to the possible unsoundness of Steele's conviction. So he was getting anxiety because somebody else got the, the honor of killing her? Like,
what?
That they took the rap for killing her?
Why would you be nervous about that?
Right, I'd have been like, okay, cool, you take it.
Whew. Yeah, if anything, it would lower my anxiety.
Anyway, Sutcliffe was known to have been acquainted with Wilkinson and to have argued violently with Wilkinson's stepfather over his advances towards her, so he was trying to pick her up. He was familiar with the council estate where she was murdered and regularly frequented the area. In February of 1977, only months before the murder, he was reported to police for acting suspiciously on the street where Wilkinson lived. Furthermore, early on the day of Wilkinson's murder, Sutcliffe had gone back to mutilate Jordan's body before returning to Bradford, showing he had already gone out to attack victims that day and would have been in Bradford to attack Wilkinson after he returned from mutilating Jordan.
Okay.
So he was pretty much witnessed to being in the area. Sutcliffe had murdered the theory that Sutcliffe had murdered Wilkinson, pointing out that her body had been posed and partially stripped in a manner similar to the Ripper's modus operandum, his MO.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, I know. I just don't like saying that. Modus operandi.
Just say MO.
Keith Halliwell investigations. In 1982, the West Yorkshire Police appointed Detective Keith Halliwell to lead a secret investigation into possible additional victims of Sutcliffe.
Okay.
A list was compiled of around 60 murders and attempted murders.
Oh, Jeez.
Not just in Yorkshire, but around the country that West Yorkshire police and other forces thought could possibly be linked to Sutcliffe.
Wow.
Detectives were able to eliminate him from 40 of these cases with reference to his lorry driver's logs because he was a truck driver.
Yeah.
So,
But
yeah.
20
But still 20 extra
were
people.
still...
Yeah. That was leaving 22 unsolved crimes with hallmarks of a Sutcliffe attack, which were investigated further. 12 of these occurred within West Yorkshire, while the others took place in other parts of the country. Hallowell also listed the attacks on Tracy Brown in 1975 and Anne Rooney in 1979 as possible Sutcliffe attacks. Hallowell, I guess I was saying that wrong the whole time. It was to Hallowell that Sutcliffe confessed to these crimes in 1992, confirming police suspicions, and was responsible for more attacks on these. He confessed too. On April 22nd, 1966, shortly after 11:30 a.m., Fred Craven, 66 years old, was murdered with a blunt instrument in his bedding office above an antique shop on Wellington Street, Bingley.
So that was his first dude then.
Was it? What was his first? Yeah, because the other one said it started in 69.
Yeah, and weren't they all...
They were all
women?
69 to 80.
And they were all women.
And they
this
were
is
all
Fred?
women. So this has got to be, if it's correct, which I don't see why it's not, it was a boy, and it was in 1966.
So before he started all the others.
Yeah.
Okay.
His wallet, which was believed to have contained 200 pounds in cash, had been stolen by his murderer. Sutcliffe's brother, Michael, age 16, was held for questioning but was eventually released and was ruled out as having any involvement in the crime. So he was going to let his brother take the heat for this.
Well, that's how murderers do.
Yeah. Sutcliffe, then age 20, knew Craven, who lived at 23 Cornwall Road, and the Sutcliffe family home where Sutcliffe lived was less than 100 yards away at 57 Cornwall Road. Sutcliffe had also asked Craven's daughter to go out with him several times and had been turned down.
For being creepy.
Yeah, like good for her, but now her father's dead. On the 22nd of March, 1967, taxi driver John Tommy, age 27, picked up a passenger in Leeds who wanted to be driven to Bingley. Near Bingley, he stopped and the passenger in the back seat, then assaulted him with a hammer, hitting him in the head. When he regained consciousness, Tommy was able to drive off and get help at a nearby cottage. He had suffered a fractured skull with multiple lacerations as well as a fractured thumb. In 1981, several weeks after Sutcliffe had confessed to being the Yorkshire Ripper, Detective Sergeant Des O'Boyle questioned Tommy and showed him a photograph of different men, including one taken of Sutcliffe after his arrest for going equipped for the theft of 1969, which Tommy, without hesitation, picked out as his attacker.
Oh, good.
He didn't kill him, but he attacked him. On November 11th, 1974, while walking across a school playing field in Bradford between 7:30 and 8 p.m., Gloria Wood, age 28, met a man who offered to carry her bags. What a gentleman.
Yeah.
What a gentleman.
It's the bow tie.
He then used what appeared to be a claw hammer to hit her in the head.
Not such a gentleman.
No. She sustained serious wounds, including a depressed skull fracture with a crescent-shaped wound that later required surgery for the removal of the bone shards from her brain.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. She was discovered drenched in blood after the attack and stopped by several nearby youths.
I imagine, because head wounds, they bleed.
And keep going and keep going and keep going.
Yeah.
While she could not provide a photo fit of her attacker, she described him as a 5'8" tall with black hair and a beard, which fitted Sutcliffe's description.
Okay.
Guilty. That was it for that one. Right, right. I mean, that kind of
sounds like it
describes a lot of people. But
yeah,
you know.
true.
18-year-old Debbie Schlesinger.
Sounds like you're drunk saying that
Schlesinger. Schlesinger was stabbed through the heart as she walked down the garden path of her home in Hawksworth, Leeds, after a night out with friends on April 21st, 1977. After being stabbed, she was chased, then she collapsed and died in a doorway. Witnesses recalled seeing a dark, bearded man near the scene, and there was no clear motive for her murder. Although a hammer was not used, Sutcliffe often used a knife to stab his victims, which most usually did. So that doesn't make sense because even though he didn't use a hammer, he used a knife, and they still kind of pinned it on him, but other people use knives to kill people.
Yeah.
So technically...
Yeah, that's a little iffy.
Yeah. Most notably, Sutcliffe's work record also showed that he was delivering to an engineering plant 100 yards from Schlesinger's home on the day she was killed. The killing took place only 2 days before Sutcliffe's known killing of Patricia Atkinson in Bradford. At the time, detectives did not believe Schlesinger's murder was a Ripper killing, as she was not a prostitute. So again, without the hammer and not being a prostitute, they didn't think it was.
It's him.
However, by 2002, West Yorkshire Police publicly announced that they were ready to bring charges against Sutcliffe for her murder, although no further action was taken.
Oh.
Imagine that. Yvonne Meisliwick, 21-year-old reporter, was attacked from behind after crossing a footbridge at the Ilkley railway station on October 11, 1979, and suffered a severe head injury. The attack was interrupted by a rail passenger. Her attacker was described as being in his 30s, dark, swarthy, square-faced with a crinkly hair, which matched Sutcliffe's description. Crinkly hair. That's
Crinkly hair.
That's a new one. After Sutcliffe's trial, the West Yorkshire Police announced that he would be questioned about the attack.
That makes me think of Justin Timberlake's ramen hair. Crinkly hair.
Crinkly hair. Additional investigations were done in 2017 where the West Yorkshire Police launched Operation Paint Haul to determine if Sutcliffe was guilty of unsolved crimes dating back to 1964.
Okay.
In December of 2017, West Yorkshire Police, in response to Freedom of Information requests, neither confirmed nor denied that Operation Paintball existed. After his conviction in 1981, the South Yorkshire Police interviewed Sutcliffe on the murder of 29-year-old Doncaster prostitute Barbara Young, who had been hit over the head by a tall, dark-haired man in an alleyway on the evening of March 22, 1977. A postmortem revealed that she had died from a massive hemorrhage caused by a fractured skull. However, several aspects of the attack did not fit Sutcliffe's modus operandi, particularly as she had been hit from the front and had been the victim of a robbery.
Yeah.
So that is not his MO. On August 28, 1979, 32-year-old prostitute Wendy Jenkins was killed in Bristol. She had been stabbed and beaten to death and was found partially buried in a building site sandpit. Avon and Somerset Police liaisoned with West Yorkshire Police as to whether there were any potential links to the Ripper killing spree. Ripper detective John Hobson visited the site of the murder in Bristol, but there were a number of differences from Sutcliffe's known MO. Jenkins' murder remains unsolved. Links were investigated in 2016 between Sutcliffe and the unsolved murders of two Swedish prostitutes in 1980. 31-year-old Gertie Jensen was found in a Gothenburg building site on August 12, 1980. And on August 30th, 26-year-old Teresa Thorling was found dead in the entrance of a building in Malmo. She had severe head wounds. Bo Lundquist of a police cold case investigator stated that the murders bore Sutcliffe's signatures in terms of their sexually charged brutality. Sutcliffe's name appeared on the manifest of the ferry between Malmo and Dragør across the Øresund Strait in Denmark a day before the second murder. West Yorkshire Police later stated that it was absolutely certain that Sutcliffe had never been in Sweden.
Oh.
So, can't necessarily say it was him. The Yorkshire Rippers, The Secret Murders. In 2015, authors Chris Clark and Tim Tate published a book claiming links between Sutcliffe and unsolved murders titled The Yorkshire Ripper, The Secret Murders. It was alleged that between 1966 and 1980, he was responsible for at least 22 more murders than he was convicted of. In the documentary series of the same name, which featured both Clark and Tate, it was later adapted into a two-part ITV documentary.
Okay. Cool. So check it out.
Check it out. The book and the documentary series, The Yorkshire Ripper, The Secret Murders. So, Mary Judge, a 43-year-old prostitute, was found naked and battered to death on waste ground near the Leeds Parish Church on February 22nd, 1968. She was last seen outside Regent Hotel in the city center. Passengers on a train from Kingston upon Hull are believed to have seen some of the attack, and it passed the church of Kirkgate, Leeds, at 10:18 p.m. A small boy on the train, which passed within 50 yards of the murder scene, was the main witness. He saw a tall, slim man with long, dark hair beating Mary to the ground. So again, these are secret murders. 21-year-old Lucy Tinslop was attacked after leaving her birthday party at 11 p.m. at St. Mary's Rest Garden in Bath Street, Nottingham, on August 4th, 1969. She had been raped and strangled. Her abdomen had been ripped open and her vagina had been stabbed over 20 times, which was consistent with Sutcliffe's M.O.
But she was raped, and he had.
And all the other ones didn't say they were raped, but maybe they just left that out.
I don't know.
I don't either. So that's the first that we're hearing of rape.
Rape, yeah.
Yeah.
Although,
and they said it was consistent with his M.O.
He did stab another lady in the vajayjay.
2 of them now.
2, yeah.
29-year-old Gloria Booth was found strangled and partially nude in Stonefield Park in Ruislip, West London on June 13, 1971. Police believe she was attacked as she walked home from work. Sutcliffe was in the area at the time of the attacks, as his girlfriend, Sonia, they weren't married at the time, was living in Alperton, West London. Judith Roberts, 14, was murdered on June 7, 1972.
Oh,
I know.
Chills.
I know.
Hate
After leaving home to ride her bike
Oh.
in Wigington, Staffordshire. She was found partially hidden beneath hedge clippings and plastic fertilizer bags, face down later that day after going missing in a field north of Tamworth, Staffordshire. She had 19 head wounds and had been battered to death. 17-year-old Andrew Evans was wrongly convicted and served 25 years in jail after confessing to the murder, but had his conviction quashed in 1997. Quashed.
Zucchini'd.
On the evening of Robert's death, Sutcliffe was driving to visit his fiancée Sonia at a hospital in Bexleyheath. He would have then had to return to Bingley, West Yorkshire, where he worked night shifts, which would have taken Sutcliffe within a short distance of the crime scene of Cumberford Lane. Sutcliffe also drove a gray Ford Escort, which is identical to the vehicle that 4 eyewitnesses observed trailing Judith as she made her way to local shops at the time of her disappearance. 32-year-old legal secretary Wendy Sewell was attacked in Bakewell Cemetery at lunchtime on September 12, 1973. She was beaten around the head 7 times with the handle of a pickaxe, which had caused severe head injuries and fractures to her skull.
I would imagine so.
Yeah, with a pickaxe? Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. She had also been sexually assaulted. Clark and Tate claimed to have unearthed a pathology report which allegedly indicated that the original convicted Stephen Downing could not have committed the crime. So there was that guy was falsely imprisoned.
And this is another rape.
Yep. The Home Office responded by stating that it would send any new evidence to the police. Derbyshire Constabulary dismissed the theory, noting a re-investigation in 2002 had found only that Downing could not be ruled out of the investigation, and responded by stating that there was no evidence linking Sutcliffe to the crime. 24-year-old prostitute Rosina Hilliard was found on February 22, 1974, at a building site near Humberstone Road, Leicester. She had been hit by a car and suffered extensive head injuries and fractures to her spine and collarbone. A post-mortem examination confirmed someone had also attempted to strangle her. Records show Sutcliffe was delivering goods to and from that area at the time. One murder that was linked to Sutcliffe in the book, 25-year-old trainee teacher Alison Morris in Ramsey, Essex, on the 1st of September 1979. took place only 6.5 hours before his known killing of Barbara Leach in Bradford, over 200 miles away. Morris was stabbed multiple times as she walked down a footpath along Storebrook, 250 yards from her home in Warbiness Road. Authors Clark and Tate claim that Sutcliffe could have been in Essex and still had enough time to drive back to Bradford to kill Leach later. Morris's case remains unsolved. That's sad.
Yeah.
Sally Shepard, 24, was making her way home to Friary Road late at night after getting off a bus in Peckham, South London on December 1st, 1979, when she was clubbed unconscious, sexually assaulted, and beaten to death. Her killer then dragged her body through a wire fence and left her at the back of Peckham Police Station in Staffordshire Street. Sally's murder and Sutcliffe's killing of Yvonne Pearson in January of 1978 bore many similarities. Sutcliffe's wife, Sonia, also did teacher training course in nearby Deptford at the time, and Sutcliffe used to frequently visit her. Those are his potential victims, or supposed victims. So following his conviction, Sutcliffe chose to use the name Coonan, his mother's maiden name, as he began his sentence at HM Prison Parkhurst on May 22, 1981. Despite being found sane at the trial, he was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. Attempts to send him to a secure psychiatric unit were blocked. While Parkhurst was seriously assaulted by James Costello, a 35-year-old career criminal with several convictions for the violence, on January 10, 1983, he followed Sutcliffe into a recess of F2, the hospital wing at Parkhurst, and plunged a broken coffee jar twice into the left side of Sutcliffe's face, creating 4 wounds requiring 30 stitches.
Wow.
Yeah, good for that guy. Good for that guy.
Gee.
Too bad he didn't put it in his neck.
You know, I thought, because I was researching pictures to use for our thumbnails.
Yeah.
And there was a picture with his face all stitched up, and I was wondering what happened to him.
That's what happened.
Now I know.
Yep. In March of 1984, Sutcliffe was sent to Broadmoor Hospital under Section 47 of the Mental Health Act of 1983. The Mental Health Act of 1983 is the act of the Parliament of the United Kingdom. It covers reception, care, and treatment of mentally disordered people, the management of their property, and other related matters forming part of the mental health law for the people in England and Wales. At that time, Sutcliffe's wife obtained a separation around 1989, and divorce was in July of 1994, as we stated before. On February 23, 1996, he was attacked in his room in Boardmoor's Henley Ward. Paul Wilson, a convicted robber, asked to borrow a videotape before attempting to strangle Sutcliffe with the cable from the pair of stereo headphones. So he also got attacked in that ward. After an attack with a pen by a fellow inmate, Ian Kay, on March 10, 1997, Sutcliffe lost the vision in his left eye, and his right eye was severely damaged. Kay admitted to trying to kill Sutcliffe and was ordered to be detained and secured in a secured mental hospital without limit of time. In 2003, it was reported that Sutcliffe had developed diabetes.
Yeah, he looks like it. That was him.
Oh, yeah. They said he had gained a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Sutcliffe's father died in 2004 and was cremated on January 17, 2005. He was allowed to visit Arnsdale, where the ashes had been scattered. So they let him out to visit.
I wouldn't have.
No.
He killed people.
Yes.
He doesn't get those kind of rewards.
Psychotic, schizophrenic. Like, no. The decision to allow the temporary release was initiated by David Blunkett and ratified by Charles Clark when he became Home Secretary. Sutcliffe was accompanied by 4 members of the hospital staff. Not security guards, not police officers, hospital staff. The visit led to the front page of the tabloid headlines. On December 22, 2007, a 4th attack on Sutcliffe was made by a fellow inmate, Patrick Shirō, who lunged at him with a metal cutlery knife while shouting, "You fucking raping, murdering bastard, I'll blind your fucking other one." Sutcliffe flung himself He wasn't messing around.
Wow. Tell us how you feel.
Right. Sutcliffe flung himself backwards, and the blade missed his right eye, stabbing him in the cheek. On February 17, 2009, it was reported that Sutcliffe was, and I quote, fit to leave Boardmoor. On March 23rd, 2010, the Secretary of State for Justice, Jack Straw, was questioned by Julie Kirkbride, conservative MP of Bromsgrove in the House of Commons, seeking reassurance for a constituent, a victim of Sutcliffe that would remain in prison. Straw responded that whilst the matter of Sutcliffe's release was a parole board matter, that all the evidence that I've seen in this case and its great a deal suggests to me that there are no circumstances in which this man will be released. End quote. Yeah. So, an application by Sutcliffe, this is for an appeal, for a minimum term to be set, offering a possibility of parole after the date if it were thought safe to release him, was heard by the High Court on July 16, 2010. The court decided that Sutcliffe would never be released. Mitting stated, "This was a campaign of murder which terrorized the population of a large part of Yorkshire for several years. The only explanation for it, on the jury's verdict, was anger, hatred, and obsession. Apart from terrorist outrage, it was difficult to conceive of circumstances in which one man could account for so many victims."
Let me introduce Samuel Little.
Right. Psychological reports describing Sutcliffe's mental state were taken into consideration, as was the severity of his crimes. Sutcliffe spent the rest of his life in custody. On August 4th, 2010, a spokeswoman for the Judicial Communications Office confirmed that Sutcliffe had initiated an appeal against the decision. The hearing for Sutcliffe's appeal against the ruling began November 30th, 2010, at the Court of Appeal. The appeal was rejected on January 14th, 2011, and on March 9th, 2011, the Court of Appeal rejected Sutcliffe's application for leave to appeal the Supreme Court. In December 2015, Sutcliffe was assessed as being no longer mentally ill.
Bullshit.
I call bullshit on that one. In August 2016, a medical tribunal ruled that he no longer required clinical treatment for his mental condition and could be returned to prison.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Good there.
Sutcliffe was reported to have been transferred from Broadmoor to HM Prison Franklin in August of 2016. And then we know the rest. He died at the University Hospital in North Durham at the age of 74 of COVID. And
Woo-hoo!
heart issues.
Yeah.
And that, my
and
friends,
the diabetes
was the life of Peter William Sutcliffe, also known as Peter Coonan, also known as the Yorkshire Ripper.
Yes.
So,
and that is our 2-part little bonus.
little 2-for-1.
Yep. And it was a doozy.
Yes, these two men were absolutely horrific people.
As they all are.
They all are, but these two and
Man.
Sam Little, they all are. But like, wow for these two.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, mine wasn't so much as a serial killer as he was a war crime.
Crime-ist.
War criminal.
Criminal.
A
Yeah.
war criminal. Like, he just did bad shit in the name of
Science.
Japan. Well,
Yay for us.
yeah. We hope you guys really enjoyed these. If you
Yes.
have any suggestions on who you'd like to hear us cover, or if you have any spooky stories to send us,
We will keep it anonymous if that's what you like. If not, we'll put your name in there. We'll omit it. We'll change it. It doesn't matter. You let us know what you want.
we're on Facebook. We have our own website at spine-chillingchatspodcast.com.
Yes.
And our email is spine-no-dash. So spinechillingchatspodcast@gmail.com.
You can send us information on either one of those. On the website, we do have a place where you can enter questions or stories,
Yep.
as well as you can see our bios and our pictures. You can
Buy some merch. We got a
and
shop.
There's links to all of our
episodes on there. Yeah.
So
check it out. Check us
Yes.
out.
yes, I'm hoping to get an Instagram page started.
I think we have Instagram.
We don't.
Are you sure? I'm pretty sure we do. I'm pretty sure we have Instagram.
Did you do Instagram?
It's connected to Facebook,
Oh.
so it automatically created one.
Oh, well then good for that.
Yeah.
Huh.
So we're on Instagram.
Look at, I don't
too.
even know what's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
So we are on Instagram.
Yep. So we got ways for you to find us.
Yes, please send us some stories. Send us somebody you want us to cover. We, like you guys, and we want you to keep coming back. So we want to know what you're interested in.
Yep.
That's all I have.
That's all I have. Until next time, thank you for listening.
Yes.
And we hope you
Keep it spooky.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us on Spine Chilling Chats, your go-to podcast for all things murder, paranormal, and macabre. Keep sipping that spooky tea and diving into the darkness with us. If our tales have sent chills down your spine, don't forget to hit subscribe and share with your fellow lovers of the haunting and horrific. See you next time.